And we're off to the races. So, welcome everyone. Welcome to the WonderMama Coffee Chat. I'm Leonne Sherr, transformational life coach, author, speaker, and I want to thank you for joining us here today. Every week, I go live here on social media where I get to sit down with incredible people who are intentionally bringing good into the world, into motherhood, into entrepreneurship, and into the lives of the people that they care about the most, and anyone who gets to come in proximity with them. We talk about real life things. And after about 30 minutes with all of you here, we drop into a private conversation inside the WonderMama community with our members. So if you're already a member, join us via the Zoom link and stay. And if you're not yet a member, the door is open. So now, let me introduce you to today's guest. Renee, if you know her, you know. Renee Jackson-Smith is an amazing woman. She is. She's a leader, and she's a leadership development strategist, executive coach, founder of Soar to Win, and the creator of Leadership Power Shift. I have to read that to make sure I got it right. A system that helps women and leaders move beyond overperforming, second guessing, and seeking approval so that they can lead with clarity, confidence, and influence in the moments that matter the most. Renee has spent more than 3 decades in leadership and talent management. She knows what it means to be the woman that other people count on, to navigate demanding professional spaces, raising a family, and to reach the point where performing is no longer the same as feeling aligned. Renee, I have been waiting for this day, for this conversation, since I met you live in Tampa, and I'm so glad that we've stayed connected since then because you're definitely my people, as our mutual friend Stephanie told me we would be.
Yes, I am so glad to be here and part of this conversation with you, Leo. When I first met you in Tampa, I kept hearing, "Oh, you got to meet Leon." And I'm like, "Okay, who is this Leon?" And then I heard someone say your name, and I'm like, "She's here." And I got so excited. I was like a groupie. I hadn't even met you yet, but I'm like, I know that I need to meet her. And it was absolutely the best connection ever. And so I'm glad to be connected with you off screen and here today as for our conversation.
Yes, I know. I know that was just the beginning of a lot of great things that we're going to do together. So I had this whole kind of like, I know that you came kind of ready to talk about things, and I had a whole bunch of things that I wrote down that I wanted to talk about, but our conversation just before we went live, I think is really important. And I thought, let's talk about that. Let's talk about being full of yourself. Let's talk about celebrating yourself and being proud of your damn self. And what that means and how uncomfortable it is for many.
You just don't know how excited I am. Because when you said, okay, we're throwing out all the stuff and we're just going to flow in the conversation, and that just made me happy. When I think of being full of full of yourself, that was something that I had programmed in my mind all throughout my career. It's like, oh, you can't walk into a room and have people thinking that you think that you're better than them or you're full of yourself. And sometimes we misunderstand what that means. Confidence is not the same as arrogance. Self-love is not the same as that. And so I had it messed up. I had it mixed up. And so I would think that if I was confident, then people would interpret that as full of yourself. And so what I would do is I would go into the room and I would manage the version that would show up in the room. And I would almost in a sense be the chameleon in the room because I didn't want someone to think that I was full of myself. And after so long, you lose your identity. You don't even know who the heck you are. And that moment when you shift and you rediscover who you are is a powerful moment. That was when I started to love myself because if you don't love who you are and recognize what you bring to the table, nobody is going to love you like you. Yes, God loves us first and foremost, but if you don't love yourself, nobody else is going to love you like that. And when I started to fall in love with me, you just lead and you show up so differently.
Yes. So I think it goes back, it goes into a lot of things, like when we first learn, like we do something as a child that we're really, really proud of. And we're like,
Right.
yes, and then somebody else kind of downplays it or something. It's a conditioned thing
Yeah.
that we bring into adulthood. I remember, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if you can tell, but I like to do big things and I like to celebrate really big things. And so I heard that sentence a lot when I was younger. Oh, you so full of yourself. And I'm like it was almost shame inducing, but I really wanted to. And then something you said, if you don't know how to celebrate yourself. And I spent a lot of years not knowing and not feeling that. And I feel like I'm still unpacking it. How will anyone else know how to celebrate you or how you feel about you? Now, I still feel like having this conversation almost feels triggering. Like, I'm amazing. I can tell you that I truly am, but that doesn't feel comfortable to say in a place where I don't know a lot of people feel that I'm amazing. It's safe here on the social media. You think I'm amazing and I think you're amazing and that's great. It's safe. But people pleasing comes in of not making others uncomfortable.
You said a whole lot there, Leon. And we have to be able to celebrate ourselves, but it doesn't take away anything from me when I celebrate and acknowledge you. And I think as women, sometimes we think there's only room for one at the top. And so sometimes when we're in spaces, it's we're all fighting to be the one. And who says there just has to be one? Why can't we help each other? And so sometimes our elevation is helping and acknowledging the greatness in others. And I've learned that because it doesn't take away anything from me if I acknowledge and say, yeah, you're freaking amazing. You are. I'm watching you and all the things that you're doing and knowing your story. And if nobody tells you, I don't want it to be that you're thinking, am I doing enough? I'm going to tell you. And I believe in telling people and giving them their flowers now instead of waiting
Yeah.
because sometimes that word that you withhold or the thing that you won't say, that's exactly the thing that someone else needs. And so stop withholding gifts of edification and helping to elevate others, but also the gifts that we have. We
Yeah.
oftentimes want to manage or hide or cover those things. We were created with greatness. There's greatness that lives within us. Each of us has the capacity to do amazing things, but when we don't choose to honor that light and purpose, we are robbing somebody of that gift that only we can provide. So I celebrate you and I celebrate all the women, the moms who think that, oh, I'm just a mom or I'm just
Mm.
we're removing the just from that. Be your whole self, your whole beautiful self with
Yes.
all that comes with it.
Yes, absolutely. That word needs to be dropped out of our out of our vocabulary when we're referring to ourselves or anything that we're trying to achieve. I love how you brought that, everyone's trying to be the one. Have you seen the stars in the sky? It's massive, and we can all shine and we can all hold each other up, and yes, all of that. But that's another word I really want to work out of my vocabulary.
Let's snatch it
And
out.
stop. Um, and you are also a lead, and you really focus on leadership, and how does tooting your own horn and tooting the horn of others, being all full of ourselves and all full of the people that we're trying to elevate, talk about a little bit, like, especially for entrepreneurs, as we are serving other people, as moms, we're serving our family and the people in our community and our children. As leaders, we're serving. And when we do that, a lot of times we wear this hat that says, I have to be perfect, I have to know everything. And if I don't, somehow I'm failing. Somehow I'm I don't get to be full of myself until I show up perfectly. And so those little filters come sliding in. What does it look like in leadership when we celebrate ourselves like that?
That's a great question. And being a leader is first and foremost understanding how to follow first. You can't always want to be in that position in the front. A leader is one who humbly knows how to recognize the strengths and talents in their team. A leader doesn't always take the credit for everything. You know when to lean into others, and that's what I would say is that our legacy isn't all of what we do. Our legacy is how we as leaders we work through other people. It's easy to want to be the hero and take on and do everything and look at me, look at what I can do. And all that's going to get you done. All that's going to do is it's going to wear you down. It's going to cost you clarity. It's going to cost you confidence. It's going to cost you capacity. And eventually it's going to cost you identity. And so asking yourself the question of who are people becoming because of me? Because your leadership legacy is an extension of you. And how are you developing? How are you pouring into other people? And to me, that is one of the greatest compliments of a leader of knowing that I helped somebody get to the next level. I helped somebody become their best selves. That's how I shine as a leader. That's how I toot my horn, being able to watch, elevate, and pour in and develop others.
It's a skill.
Yeah.
That's a skill. The skill to be completely full of yourself and everybody in your proximity, you know, without a lot of people, one of the things that I talk about is when I made the decision to become an entrepreneur and leaving my career, um, there was a sense, there was actuality of people that were coming for me. They thought I was doing a dumb thing, being ridiculous, and not being smart. It was too much of a risk taker, and what did I know? And what was interesting was building that muscle of, you know what? I'm great. I've got this. I have something to share, no matter what they say. And that I think that callus gets thicker and stronger the more you lean into your true value as a leader and stepping into the knowing that you're going to consistently be uncomfortable. You're going to stay uncomfortable. You're going to stay uncomfortable, and that needs to be your norm. But also to always toot yourself toot your own horn, because that's how people learn to do it on their own as well, I think.
You're right. And I would say that's the piece of when you shift from performing, meaning the work that you do is waiting for somebody to acknowledge you, to notice you and, oh, Leon, you're doing such a great job, or waiting for that, or waiting for everything to be perfect. That moment is not coming. It's not
No.
going to happen. And if it's going to happen, you have to activate it. You have to make a decision to move. And so while that one part of leadership is helping and lifting others, there's that clarity, that quiet calm that when you walk into the room shifts because of your energy. When you're aligned with your purpose and you are aligned with who you are and you know what you bring to the table, you walk in a new power and your influence precedes you. And you don't even have to say anything to announce that because when you are walking in alignment and that identity is clear for you, people see it. Thinking about that
Mm.
room in Tampa
In
when
Tampa,
people
yes, you're bringing up that
people
Tampa.
saw it.
Yeah.
You saw it because I walked into the room terrified and I'm a conference junkie. I like anything leadership. I love conferences and learning. But and I thought, oh, this is going to be just a regular
Hmm.
energy when you feel energy in that room. And I felt elevated in a way like, I
Yeah.
belong in this room, not like, ooh, I'm afraid, but it was like, I belong. And it was that energy that made it feel like this is where I belong.
I have, yes. And that was the day, the moment that I met you too. And it was interesting because the conference was in a building. It looked like a closed office building. And
Mhm.
maybe it was. And I like parked the car and there weren't very many cars there. And I was like, I drove hours to get here. And I walked through the door. I walked to the door, it was locked. And I was like, I don't know really what I'm doing because I
Mhm.
don't really know anybody here, but hmm. And Michael Stevenson came rushing to open the door for me. I didn't know who he was, but he was this smiling person. And he was like, "Are you here for the NYC experience?" I said, "I am." And he was like, "Hi, I'm Mike and I'm Leo." And he was just this, and I wasn't nervous at all because now I had, a very handsome, very friendly escort to walk me into the room. And then the same feeling, like, I don't really know, do I really belong? And that feeling of stepping into a room where everyone in there knows who they are. And I think that was the energy. Everyone knows who they are, knows what they bring, and was here in this space to become more, to be sharpened by each other. And that was the energy in that room. And I want to be in all those rooms. I
Yes,
want
me
to be in
too.
all those rooms. I want to be in there every single time. Emilio Roman, hello. Hi, Scotty. Um, Scotty will be my guest next week, by the way. Scotty is my husband.
Well, I'm
Um,
excited.
an incredible leader of our family and an incredible coach. And I'm really excited to have him too. And also somebody who is really great with confidence. Emilio Roman, incredible confidence. He exudes it. He's I call him the original hype man. Um, but
I
that
had the
energy,
opportunity to meet Emilio yesterday
you
through a
did.
coffee chat. oh my goodness. Oh, what a treat. What a treat. The energy. And I'm like, okay. I mean, you can just feel it through the screen. And it's so important to surround yourself
Yeah.
with a community. The power of iron sharpens iron. It's powerful. It's real because
Yeah.
when you're in spaces with people who come to serve, it's like you get so much more from that experience. And I'm energized still from that. So
Yes.
yes.
Yes. So we're both part of a community. It's almost like a family, a collective
Mm,
of really sharp people who intentionally come together to grow themselves and grow their business. Um, and I feel really fortunate because I've met many people like you that I plan to do life with, business life, personal life, because we sharpen each other. And I think it's a community full of people who are full of themselves,
mhm,
who know who they are. And so if we were to redefine that, oh, you're so full of yourself, if we were to redefine that
mhm.
in a new way, that would make it easier for people to say, yeah, I'm totally full of myself. I know who I am. How could we do that? How can we help people to redefine that?
Ooh, but I love the thought of redefining it and shifting the once negative view
Yeah.
of being full of yourself to being aware, being fully aware, present, and confident in who you are and what you bring to the table. You are in the process of becoming your best selves in every single moment. And I think that's being full of yourself is
Yeah.
that awareness. There are going to be days when you don't want to and you don't have it. And that's when you might need to tap into an additional source who can help you fill up that space and get full of yourself again when you forget, who you are and you forget how great you are. And that's why I'm grateful for that community because there are days where, nope, I don't have it. And I'm going to need somebody else to pour into and help me to remember who I am and
Yeah.
what I bring to the table. So, full of yourself just means owning all of you, all of the greatness, the potential.
Hmm. And maybe even the quiet and the not great when you're not, when you're like,
Mhm.
I'm empty, my full self needs something. So, full disclosure came in today. I am a little sleepy. I'm feeling physically tired because our puppy, Atlas, woke up at 10 to 2 in the morning, and he he was up for 3 hours at least, and it was a battle. And he's vocal. He's not just one of those that's just up and restless. No, he groans very loudly and
Oh,
complains with his big voice that something is wrong. And when, as soon as we started the conversation and we started talking, your energy helped perk me up. And that's another thing that I heard in what you said, is that we really can use each other to sharpen each other, you know. And so having that collection of people that you know and trust to hold you in high enough regard to fill the gaps when you're at a crevasse.
yes.
Yes, I love that.
Leon, one of the things that I was thinking of in like the work that we both do is when you think about identity, sometimes our identity as women and mothers almost becomes entwined with being needed and
Mm.
being dependable, being excellent, being the one to count on. And it's it can be exhausting sometimes. And sometimes when we find ourselves entwined in that, we forget who we're not when we're not performing, and we're not producing, we're not fixing it or holding it together.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, for oh, there's so much there, Renee. Okay, so women, we have a lot of tabs open at the same time. Always, right?
Mhm.
I I have several tabs open today. Um, a lot of times you hear, well, let's take it back to something simple. Your child is behaving in a way that's really big energy out in public, and we apologize. We feel bad, right? Oh, I'm so sorry. My child is right. Pet peeve of mine. Um, does your child need attention? Does your child need to go, is it an energy thing? Anyway, but inside of us, we take that on. That's actually not yours. That's not yours. That is your child. Yes, you need to attend to something. It doesn't make you a bad mom that your child has a big feeling right now,
Right.
right? Um, but it goes all the way out into kind of everything of trying to, and I think that goes into like people pleasing is trying to show up in the map that was laid out in front of us instead of the one that actually belongs to us as women, as mothers. So showing up on the map, like, do this. These are the things that you have to do. And if you don't do it, you're kind of shit. So we can do, we see that map and say, oh, yes, I'm going to take that map here and then I'm going to detour here. And we have to be okay with that. But I think it goes back to that owning yourself, you that you are, being willing to step off that map confidently. You know what I hear the through line of our conversation is ownership and confidence, but also understanding accountability and responsibility and which part is actually ours. Responsibility is able to respond. Sometimes we're actually not, and we feel bad because we're not, because we're trying to answer that map that was laid out for us, the cookie cutter that doesn't match.
You you're so spot on with that, because there's those moments where I didn't give myself permission as a young mom. You feel the pressure to, like, I have to know all of the answers. I have to fix. And so we start developing this, and it gets bigger, it gets stronger as we grow. And so now we've learned this way of being that was dysfunctional to some extent. And now we live with it and we normalize that. And that becomes a normal way of being and how we choose to show up. And so the moment that we decide to stop performing, and when we choose to implement those boundaries are so important, because as a leader, we can only leader, and leadership is not just in a corporate setting. We are leaders of our lives.
Yes.
You just stop being a mom. You don't stop being a mother, a wife. You don't stop being that. As long as you're living and breathing, that is who you are. And so we have to embrace it and embody it in a way that serves us. And recently, this past week, I had to go through a very difficult time, and I was trying to be there for everyone.
Mm.
And then I said, no, I need to hold space for me. And if it means not going to do the thing, or if it means not having the conversation, it's okay.
Yeah.
And it was one of the best things ever. I felt like I had won the lottery when I said, no, I'm prioritizing my peace. And saying no to someone else meant I could say yes to me. And so breaking that cycle of, no, I don't have to fix it. But right now I'm holding space for me. And I feel
Yes.
pretty darn good about that.
That is incredible. And you know that this conversation is like on the edge of going way deeper, but we have
Mhm.
just hit 30 minutes. You know what that means? That means we get to say goodbye, or we need to say goodbye to our amazing people online who are with us. Thank you so much for being with us today. We are going to, in just a moment, stop the live feed to Facebook and drop into a private conversation inside the Wonder Mama community with the members. But I do want you to come back next week where I will have my favorite person. It's true, my absolute favorite person in the entire world, Scott Sherr, is my husband. Next week is our anniversary week. And so I thought he was the perfect guest to have. We will have been married 27 years next week, and we have a lot to celebrate. And so I haven't had him um, out here with me much. And he is the strength behind every step that I take. When I falter, he's got his hand on my back so I don't step backwards. And so I can't wait for you all to meet him next week. We'll be live right here on Facebook like we always do every Wednesday. And until then, take care of yourselves. Be absolutely full of yourself. I will be dropping this call, what you've seen here, up onto YouTube with all of Renee's contact information. If you loved this as much as I did, definitely check it out. And if she has something that touched you, definitely reach out to her. All right, everybody, goodbye.